The world is condemning the fierce attacks by the Israeli army on the innocent Gaza civilians. Now, protests in solidarity with Palestinians have gained momentum worldwide. And this as thousands continue taking to the streets across the world, and they are demanding an urgent ceasefire in Gaza. From the United States to Philippines, the protests have grown louder, amplifying the urgent need for peace and resolution between Israel and Hamas. Now, in Brazil, let's start right off from this region. Hundreds of protesters demonstrated in solidarity with Palestinians stuck in Gaza. Protesters waved the Palestinian flag and chanted slogans showing their support. One demonstrator even gathered in front of the U.S. consulate in Rio de Janeiro and accused the U.S. for financing the war while waving the Palestinian flag.
Que os Estados Unidos, que financia essa guerra, eles são os grandes financiadores disso, e a gente está aqui para dizer que somos contra esse genocídio, contra esse massacre que está acontecendo em Gaza e também na Cisjordânia,
Moving on to the United States, thousands of Israeli and Palestinian supporters gathered and protested in several cities across the country. Palestinian supporters marched through the streets in North Carolina. Meanwhile, the Jewish community in New York's Glen Cove held a vigil for Israel. Then, on the other hand, a major protest in support of Palestinians broke out in Jordan, where around 2,000 protesters gathered regarding a deadly Israeli airstrike on a Palestinian refugee camp that has happened very recently, and it killed at least 50 Palestinians. Demonstrators gathered at a mosque in the capital of Amman near the Israeli embassy, comparing the incident to a massacre.
يعني يعجز الكلام عن التعبير والله بعد ما شفت هالمجزرة شغله يعني لاول مره انا بشوف مجزره زي اللي شفتها اليوم. ما مر علي مجازر زي هيك ولا شفت بحياتي، لا بالحرب السابقه ولا اللي قبلها ولا في اي حرب. يعني ما انا صاب لي انهيار.
The demonstration coincided with Jordan's King Abdullah telling the US President Joe Biden regarding the necessity of an immediate humanitarian ceasefire, and this is to enable continuous relief supplies to the beleaguered Gaza enclave. Now, Palestinians protested on the streets of the West Bank city of Ramallah. This while they also prayed for the victims of Israeli strikes on a refugee camp in northern Gaza. Protesters chanted slogans, waved Palestinian flags to mark their protests. Next, let's look at what's happening in Lebanon. Several people demonstrated in front of the French embassy in Beirut to support the Palestinians and to denounce what they perceive as France's backing of Israel in the ongoing crisis in Gaza. Then viewers, let's show you what's happening in the Philippines. Hundreds of Filipino protesters held a rally in Manila showing their solidarity while they called for freedom of Palestinians. Anti-riot police with other security forces clashed with some of the demonstrators who chanted slogans like Free, Free Palestine. Now, since October 7th, over 8,300 people, many of them minors, have died as a result of Israeli bombardment, according to Gaza health authorities. And now, out of approximately 2.3 million civilians living in Gaza, almost 1.4 million have become homeless, according to UN officials.